160 million years. That's how long dinosaurs ruled this planet. Not decades, not centuries, 160 million years. To put that in perspective, the entire existence of humanity compared to their reign isn't even a second, it's a blink. Dinosaurs dominated this world for so long that nothing, by any law of nature, should have ever stopped them. And between themselves, they ran a brutal evolutionary arms race. Nobody wanted to become someone else's lunch, so every species got stronger, faster, more dangerous. Million years after million years, nature sharpened these creatures to something close to perfection. They became the ultimate survival machines, massive, armored, ferocious. By every measure, they should have been unstoppable. Nothing alive could touch them. But something could. The threat didn't come from the ground. It came from space. An asteroid roughly 10 kilometers across hit this planet with a force that literally changed everything. The explosion, the dust, the darkness, the cold. The sun vanished behind a cloud of debris for months. Plants died. Then the herbivores. Then the predators. Anything weighing more than about 10 kilograms was, effectively, already dead. Within a few thousand years, the great reptiles were gone from the face of the Earth forever. But the planet didn't die. Life didn't disappear entirely. Hidden in cracks, burrows, and under the roots of dying trees were small, unremarkable creatures that the dinosaurs had never taken seriously. Mammals. They survived the catastrophe. They inherited an empty world, and between them, a new race for survival began. The question was simple: who takes the throne? About 30 million years after the dinosaurs vanished, mammals had spread across the entire planet, grown in size, and carved out every ecological niche available to them. The evolutionary race was running at full speed. And out of that race came a winner, a creature unlike anything that had lived before it. Its name was Entelodont, but the name that stuck was more fitting: the hell pig. Picture a wild boar the size of a hippopotamus. Now give it jaws that can snap bone in half. Then strip out every trace of fear and replace it with pure aggression. That's roughly what you're dealing with. The Entelodont was one of the most ferocious predators in the entire history of mammals. It sat at the top of the food chain, and it knew it. It didn't hunt by exhaustion, chasing prey across open ground for hours. It waited. It calculated distance, picked its moment, then launched its massive body forward and knocked the target off its feet before the teeth even came into play. And those teeth, enormous, purpose-built for tearing off large chunks of flesh, finished the job before the victim had time to process what had happened. But the hell pig didn't always bother hunting at all. Why spend the energy when you can just take someone else's kill? Hyaenodon, one of the most successful predators of the era, regularly found itself on the losing end of exactly that arrangement. The Entelodont would show up, growl once, and the food changed ownership. Simple and effective. What made it truly unstoppable, though, was that it wasn't a pure predator. It ate everything: meat, carrion, plants, roots. That adaptability is what made it so successful for so long. The world kept changing around it, and the hell pig kept adjusting. For millions of years, it roamed the wastelands of North America without fear or competition. Then, 25 million years ago, the Miocene arrived. The climate shifted hard, colder, drier. Forests retreated and vast open plains took their place. Food became scarcer. Species started disappearing, one by one. Even the hyaenodon, whose kills the hell pig had been stealing for ages, began to vanish. The situation was becoming critical. But evolution didn't give up. It doubled down on size. The next version of the hell pig stood 2 meters at the shoulder, bigger, more powerful, with even more terrifying jaws. Scientists named it Dinosaurs, which translates roughly as terrible pig. A terminator built from bone and instinct, with a primitive brain wired for exactly one purpose: kill and survive. By every measure, nothing should have been able to stop it. Dinosaurs ruled the plains of North America like it owned them. Because it did. Nothing challenged it. Nothing gave it reason to worry, until something arrived from the other side of the world and changed the equation entirely. Amphicyonids, better known by a name that suits them perfectly: bear dogs. They came from China and Mongolia, crossed into North America via the Bering Land Bridge, and began systematically taking territory, literally eating their way forward. If you had to describe a bear dog in one sentence, it would go something like this. Take a lion, a wolf, and a bear, pull out the most lethal thing from each one, and pack it all into a single body. That's an amphicyanid. This wasn't just a predator, it was an apex predator in the truest sense. Fast like a wolf, built for endurance like a bear, and on top of all that, genuinely intelligent. The bear dog's brain had a well-developed cortex with significant folding, which meant one thing: this animal could think, plan, adapt. Compared to the primitive, instinct-driven mind of Dinosaurs, that was an overwhelming advantage. Their first order of business was finishing off the hyenodon. Already weakened by climate change and mounting competition, the hyenodon were pushed out of North America for good by the arriving bear dogs and disappeared from the fossil record entirely. With his favorite target for theft gone, Dinosaurs suddenly found himself in a much more difficult position. And then the two monsters met. Terrible pig versus bear dog. On paper, Dinosaurs should have won. Massive, powerful, with those bone-crushing jaws. But size isn't always the deciding factor. The bear dog didn't come at it head-on. It used intelligence, mobility. It found its moment, created a distraction, came from an unexpected angle, and took the kill before Dinosaurs could react. Not once. Every time. Slowly, the terrible pig began losing ground. Bear dogs pressed it from every direction. The climate kept drying out, food kept getting scarcer, and sustaining a body that size under constant competition became increasingly impossible. Dinosaurs was losing on two fronts simultaneously, against nature and against a smarter predator. Eventually, the terrible pig disappeared from the earth forever. The throne was empty, and the bear dogs took it without ceremony. While the war between pigs and bear dogs played out in the north, the other side of the world had its own ruler. South America was completely cut off by ocean. None of the northern predators could reach it. And in that isolation, over millions of years of uninterrupted evolution, nature built something extraordinary. A creature that proved to the world that a bird could be the most terrifying predator on an entire continent. Its name was Forus racid, better known as the terror bird. The terror bird was a direct descendant of the dinosaurs that survived the asteroid impact. Millions of years of evolution had sharpened it into something genuinely frightening. Standing around 2 meters tall, with powerful long legs built purely for speed, and its primary weapon, an enormous hooked beak, hard as iron and sharp as an axe. It couldn't fly. It didn't need to. It hunted with brutal efficiency. It ran its prey down, pinned it to the ground with powerful feet, and then drove that beak downward in vertical strikes, again and again, like an axe coming down. The victim had no chance. Bones cracked, resistance ended fast. The terror bird was intelligent, agile, and extraordinarily quick for its size. On the South American continent, it had no equals. For tens of millions of years, the terror bird reigned over its continent without challenge. Local mammals lived in constant fear. Some scientists believe the Forus racids drove entire species of hoofed animals to complete extinction, simply hunted them down to the last individual, and nothing could stop them. Then, 5 million years ago, everything changed. Volcanic activity formed the Isthmus of Panama, connecting two continents with a thin strip of land. The terror birds, sensing new territory and new prey, pushed north. At first it looked like the conquest would continue. There was plenty of prey in the north. But along with the prey came predators the terror bird had never encountered before. Predators that were ready for competition. For the first time in its existence, the terror bird faced something that could genuinely match it. The world beyond South America operated by completely different rules. And those rules didn't favor the bird that had never had to share its throne. North America didn't roll out the welcome mat for the terror bird. This continent had its own game running, and nobody was looking for new players. Among the many predators that divided these lands, one stood above the rest. Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat, one of the most refined predators in the entire history of mammals. Smilodon was enormous, some individuals pushing 300 kilograms. This wasn't just a big cat. It was a killing machine engineered by evolution for a single purpose: bring down large prey fast and without failure. Its primary weapon was the fangs. Long, curved, lethal. No other predator in history carried anything like them. But those weapons required skill to use. For all their power, Smilodon's fangs were relatively fragile. Break them in a struggle and death by starvation followed. So the saber-toothed cat never drove them in immediately. First, it knocked the prey to the ground and held it down with its full body weight, waiting until the struggling stopped. Only then came the single, precise strike, fangs simultaneously collapsing the trachea and cutting off blood flow. One bite, done. Smilodon hunted like a lion, ambushes, patient stalking, waiting for exactly the right moment. Its prey included mastodons, juvenile mammoths, bison, and horses. Sometimes it took on animals considerably larger than itself. And it succeeded because raw power, weight, and that precise fang strike were a combination almost nothing could survive. But Smilodon lived under constant competition. Dire wolf packs could surround and drive off even a saber-toothed cat if the numbers were right. The American lion, barely smaller than Smilodon itself, competed for the same kills. And the giant short-faced bear, the largest terrestrial predator of the era, could scatter several saber-toothed cats simultaneously just by showing up. There were also animals Smilodon learned to avoid entirely. Megatherium, the giant ground sloth standing 6 meters tall and heavier than an elephant, was effectively untouchable. Beneath its skin lay small bone plates that functioned as natural chainmail, and a single swipe of its forelimb could kill a saber-toothed cat outright. Smart predators gave it a wide berth. Smilodon thrived for around 2 million years, but roughly 10,000 years ago, the world around it began changing faster than it could adapt. Forests retreated and open prairies spread across the landscape. The large animals it depended on started disappearing one by one. Mammoths, ground sloths, bison, all going. Hunting on open ground was a serious problem for Smilodon, because stealth was its greatest advantage. And stealth doesn't work in open fields. The great predator began to fade, slowly, but without any way back. While all these creatures cycled through the top of the food chain, a new species was quietly appearing at the edge of the story. Unremarkable, physically weak by the standards of the time. No claws, no fangs, no armor. Slower than most predators. Homo sapiens. And at first, nothing took it seriously. But this creature had something no monster before it had ever possessed. Real, developed intelligence. Not just the ability to react to the world, but to think ahead, plan, invent, pass knowledge to others. Humans learned to make weapons. They learned to hunt in coordinated groups using tactics no animal could anticipate. They drove prey toward cliffs, built traps, weaponized fire. Neanderthals, a separate human species, had already mastered mammoth hunting long before modern humans arrived. They used torches and darkness to drive enormous animals toward drop-offs. A single hunt like that fed a tribe for weeks. That wasn't instinct, that was strategy. And strategy, it turned out, was the most powerful weapon in the history of life on Earth. Not size, not fangs, not armor. Gradually, humans spread across the entire planet. Everywhere the great predators had once ruled unchallenged, humans arrived, and the predators began to disappear. Not because humans were physically stronger, they weren't, but because no amount of instinct or muscle mass works against an organized, thinking creature with a weapon in its hand. Smilodon disappeared. Dire wolves disappeared. Giant bears disappeared. Mammoths disappeared. One by one, the giants of that world faded into the past. And on the emptied stage, only one species remained. The same one that used to hide in burrows and tried its best not to be noticed. For millions of years, evolution had been betting on strength, building bigger, more heavily armed, more heavily armored creatures. And every single time, nature or time erased those advantages. The climate shifted and the giant died. The food ran out and the monster vanished. A new predator arrived and the old king surrendered the throne. But intelligence was different. It didn't weaken when the climate changed. It didn't become useless when familiar prey disappeared. It adapted, found a way through, invented a new solution. Humans didn't adjust to the world. They adjusted the world to themselves. and that changed everything. Today, humanity is the only species on the planet capable of consciously shaping the fate of every other living thing. We protect some species and accidentally destroy others. We reshape climates, forests, oceans. We build cities where saber-toothed cats roamed a million years ago. The history of life on Earth spent 4 billion years moving toward this moment. And here is the result. A planet that was once ruled by seemingly invincible monsters now belongs to the creature that won not with strength, but with intelligence.